All right, let's just jump right in. The very nature of global conflict, it's changing like right in front of us. We're moving away from the old rule books to something totally new, way more spread out, and frankly, a whole lot messier.
And if you want to get a sense of just how big this change is, just think about this one number 550. That's the staggering number of political violence events. We're talking battles, riots, targeted attacks, you name it, that are now happening every single day around the world.
And look, this isn't just a temporary spike. It's a real, fundamental shift. The folks over at the ACLD Conflict Index, that's the Armed Conflict, Location, and Event Data Project, by the way, they're calling this a new normal for global conflict. What that really signals is a whole new era of instability, and that's exactly what we're going to unpack right now. Okay, so first up, let's get our heads around this new normal. What does this new landscape of conflict actually look like, and what's behind it all?
So, what's really driving this? Well, it's kind of like a two-front war on stability itself. On one hand, you've got governments getting more aggressive, right? They're pouring money into defense and launching a record number of air and drone strikes. But at the exact same time, their own authority is getting chipped away from the inside by all these armed groups that are just popping up everywhere, especially in places across Africa and Latin America. It's a perfect storm.
Okay, so that's the big picture. Now let's zoom way in on a case study that is literally rewriting the rulebook on modern war as we speak. We're talking about Ukraine, of course. It's become this live laboratory, showing us exactly how high-tech, high-intensity conflict is fought today.
And maybe one of the biggest lessons coming out of this, something the RAND Corporation has really zeroed in on, is that going on the attack, it's gotten incredibly hard. In fact, any army trying to launch an offensive today faces this fundamental, almost impossible choice. And here's why. The battlefield today is basically transparent. You've got drones in the air all the time, which means there is nowhere to hide. So just imagine you're a commander. You try to group your troops together for an attack, and bam, you're spotted. And the second you're spotted, long-range precision missiles can hit you before you've even made your first move. It gives a huge advantage to whoever is on defense.
Yeah, and this quote from that RAND report just nails the catch-22 that commanders are in. Do you amass forces and risk getting wiped out instantly? Or do you disperse forces to stay safe, but then you're too spread out to be effective? It's a brutal, brutal choice, and there's just no good answer. So what are the big lessons here? Well, first, drones. They aren't just a sideshow anymore. They're absolutely central to how wars are fought. Second, if you want to fight a long war, it takes massive outside help. And that's exposed a huge weak spot for a lot of countries, their ability to actually make enough weapons and ammo. And maybe the biggest lesson of all, you can have all the fancy tech in the world, but if you don't have a smart strategy and well-trained troops, it means nothing. All right, so we've covered the how of modern conflict, but what about the where? Let's switch gears and look at a brand new arena that's opening up, a place that, until now, has been pretty much frozen and forgotten, the Arctic. And to really get what's going on up there, you have to understand this one term, near Arctic state. That's what China is calling itself. Now, think about that. China has absolutely zero territory in the Arctic. Zero. But by calling itself this, it's making a pretty clever political play to demand a seat at the table when it comes to the region's future. So why all this sudden interest? What's changed? Honestly, it comes down to two words: climate change. The melting ice is literally redrawing the world's strategic map right before our eyes. It's opening up brand new shipping routes and giving access to just massive amounts of natural resources that were totally unreachable before. That's the real driver here. And this is where things get tricky. You've got three main players, and they all want completely different things. Russia is all about military dominance and cashing in on oil and gas. China's dreaming of a polar Silk Road and getting its hands on all those resources. And the US? It's pretty much playing defense, just trying to keep things stable and push back on Russian and Chinese influence. These aren't just competing interests. This is a recipe for some serious tension. And we really can't overstate Russia's advantage here. Get this, 53%. Russia controls more than half of the entire Arctic coastline. That gives them an absolutely massive head start, both territorially and strategically, in this whole new game. And you can really see that tension building right here. On one side, you've got Russia and China working more and more closely together up there. On the other side, you have NATO stepping up its own presence. The Arctic used to be this place for peaceful science projects. Now, it's quickly turning into a stage for the next great power showdown.
Okay, so we've looked at the how and the where. What happens when we put it all together? Let's tie these threads and see what it all means for, well, the whole world.
So that RAND report really gives us a few key takeaways. First, Europe's view of Russia has totally changed, probably forever. That, in turn, has pushed Russia and China into a tighter partnership, which is a new headache for the United States. And at the same time, you've got a huge chunk of the world, the global south, that's basically decided to sit this one out. And by staying neutral, they've really taken the teeth out of Western economic sanctions, showing that that tool isn't as powerful as we once thought. So all of this leaves us with a really big and honestly a pretty serious question. We're in a world where the actual geography of our planet is changing and brand new ways to wage war are spreading like wildfire. So are the old rules, the old alliances, the old ways of doing things, are they strong enough to keep a lid on all this and stop the next massive global conflict? I guess we're all about to find out.